Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget. Hi, I'm Rami Assorti with Adventure Freaks, and I just wanted to thank you for tuning in and supporting our channel. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button, that red button below. It's the best way to support our channel. And thanks again for tuning in. Okay, today we're going over to the Netherlands, and I'm with my new buddy, Kronos, who's an artist, musician, a very, very talented guy who originates from Romania, and he moved to the Netherlands, now resides in Amsterdam, of all places. He's been there for 4 years. Hey, man, pleasure to meet you, Kronos.
Nice to meet you and everybody that is watching. And yeah, hopefully we can talk about Amsterdam, give you some insight, talk about what is true and what is not true. There is a lot of myths going around and a lot of, touristy kind of information that's out there that may not be true in all the cases, but
yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate you, participating in this episode. It's great. So tell us a little bit about, how did from Romania, growing up in Romania, how did you land in the Netherlands?
Well, so I assume pretty much just like every, young expat, you kind of go for schooling, education. But for me, it kind of, that never really developed. So I came for university, then I dropped out and kind of did my own thing and it worked out. But yeah, initially I came here, to study. I went to university in Haarlem. And then it just didn't really materialize for me. So I just followed other directions and kind of stayed here and rolled with it.
Mm-hmm. So what did you initially go there to study? What were you?
The course is called International Business.
Gotcha.
But it's an English course. But the thing is in the Netherlands is that Dutch people can also attend English courses, and sometimes it's cheaper for them. So they will overpopulate English courses and you end up with everyone speaking Dutch in an English course. So you kind of get this feeling of exclusion. It was kind of one of the things that, I never really felt like I had anyone there to hang out with. It was just people speaking Dutch or, professors never really talk to you. They just kind of, oh yeah, see you next time, blah, blah. But I'm not saying every university is like this. It's just specifically in my situation, this is what happened,
Yeah, sure. So tell me how you got involved in creating music. I mean, what inspired that? How did you dive in?
Yeah, music is a long story. I probably started doing my own music when I was like 12, but before that I was like I was hearing all these guys kind of rap fast on the radio, and I was like, man, that's pretty cool. How do they do that? And I started, repeating it, and so okay, I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I could try doing my own stuff. And then it was just years of trial and error until I really found that I learned, how to get my vibe and my sound. And I've tried working with other people before, like engineers and stuff, but they never really seem to get that essence. So for me, it's like I do everything myself just to know that I can make it the way I want to make it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of went along with it. I've had, music has been really a trip for me. I used to make old school rap, and then I moved to, the new generation trap, and then I had the R&B period, and then I had, wave rap, blah blah. So it's really like a story and an experience more so than just making music as a fact,
Yeah. How would you describe your style of music?
The music that I make right now, so I'm gonna release an album in July, 17th of July. I would say it doesn't really fit any genre, so to speak, but you can definitely hear the influences from different directions. What I try to make is basically, I call it spaceship music. It's the music that you would kind of listen to when, in a few hundred years, when we're going to be able to have interplanetary travel, humans are going to play that in the spaceship and kind of vibe to it in space. But yeah, also just good vibes, just good energy. I don't really like talking about, you know, violence, and I like being you know, authentic and talking about what I'm really experiencing, what I'm really going through. So I've had the period, you know, trying to sound a certain way, but it wasn't me. So I had to go back to my style, my original style.
Nice, man. Well, I look forward to your release of your album.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Netherlands and Amsterdam. What is your impression of living in Amsterdam? What makes it a special place? There's a lot of people all over the world that are always eager to travel to Amsterdam. So what
Yeah.
makes this such a special place to travel to?
Oh, there's the other alarm. um, well, first of all, I would say, as I said earlier, there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of focus from the Dutch government, so to speak, on this, you know, bringing tourists in and making Amsterdam seem like a heaven for, you know, people who want to be free, or they have, you know, for the LGBTQ community, or well, that's true, you know, and you will find that everywhere here. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's true in all of the Netherlands. So if you go to cities that are smaller and have like older generation, they are pretty, you know, pretty exclusive, and they don't really, you know, they might look at you weird, or they're not gonna come and say anything to your face, you know, but you can tell that. And when I lived in Zandvoort, when I just moved here, that's what I experienced. I would rarely even find people that speak English.
Mhm.
And moving to Amsterdam is quite the difference. There's the amount of tourism here, and all people from different countries that live here. People speak English here. They don't really look at you weird anymore. It's like but you know, it's still a capital, so you always have that capital stress, and you can see it on people that they have that. Even in traffic, you're gonna see pretty crazy drivers. It's just that capital energy, you know, country capital.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So would you say overall that your experience in Amsterdam has been a good experience?
Yeah, initially I would say I didn't like it so much, but then in time it grew on me, and I started to discover, and I started to understand how, you know, how the pace is here and how people are here. Uh, I would say that yeah, I definitely like it more now than I did before. I even got yesterday, I got a Amsterdam tattoo, just as you know, as because I feel like it's part of my story now. So either way, um, you know, people are good and bad everywhere you go in the world. You know, you're gonna find them everywhere. So it's more important not to focus on making actual connections and exploring. And sometimes it can get repetitive. Amsterdam, you see a lot of bridges that look the same, houses that look the same. But if you learn how to enjoy them, they can really be very nice and beautiful landscapes.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So let's get into getting there. For people that are interested in living, you've already gone through this, but emigrating to Amsterdam, living there, there's a visa requirement. I know it could be different in, from where you're coming from in various
Yeah.
different countries, but what was your experience in the visa requirement?
So if you live in Europe, we have what's called the Schengen zone, which
Yeah.
means you can travel with basically just your ID.
Hmm.
You don't need a passport or anything. And Romania and the Netherlands are both in the Schengen zone. So I was able to just
Ah,
get on a plane and go there.
gotcha.
And
Okay.
then you have, I'm not sure what the touristic stay limit is. I think it's 3 months, maybe
Yeah,
2 months.
that's pretty standard. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, yeah, I'm not sure if anything will happen, but probably when leaving, you will get, you know, a fine or something like that. But if you want to live here, you basically, if you're inside the Schengen zone, you can come here and get an address, and then you register to the address with a BSN, and basically you can live here.
Okay. So it was,
Outside the Schengen zone, I think you do need a visa to visit. If you come from America, for example, I think you have 60 days or something on a visa, and then you have to leave.
Mhm.
So I'm not really sure about coming from different countries. I know coming from countries outside of the European Union is pretty hard here. You're not usually gonna find a lot of people that are outside the European Union. unless, you know, they're like, they have a lot of money and they can kind of move their way around. But yeah, living here as a European citizen is quite easy if you have the money.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what is when you move there, you got to find a place to live.
Yeah,
Now, is Amsterdam affordable?
not at all. I
Okay.
would not even Amsterdam, but just the surrounding areas, because so how the Netherlands works is that they have a very low supply and a very high demand. So that way they can, you know, play with the prices the way they want to. And there's a lot of the problem here is that there's a lot of independent owners that buy, for example, an apartment building, and then they can, you know, rent out those rooms, and but because of that, you get to in situations where you have a landlord that has, you know, several buildings across Amsterdam, and you know, he can constantly raise up all of those prices because, you know, he owns everything. So, but I would say this: if you are street smart and you know how, you know, your way around and how to talk to people, you can get, you know, good rents. And then also after you rent, there's these guys that will do a legal rent check where they go through all your you know, size of your place, the utilities that you have, costs, blah, 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 and they make an overall cost. And if it's lower than the rent you pay, they can legally basically push that new rent, and then you pay that new rent and also get back everything that you paid on top of that for all that period. And there's also a lot of landlords that will not give you your deposit back, even if you leave a perfect house. They just keep it because, you know, they can. And these guys also helped me with that. So they got me some deposits back. So I'm really thankful that I found these guys. They helped me a lot with the Amsterdam market. And yeah, I've gotten probably over a few thousand euros back just from, you know, scummy landlords who asked for like hundreds for a room and stuff. So even in Zandvoort, where I lived at first, I think I paid more than what I pay now in Amsterdam, just because they see that you're a tourist, you know, they see that you don't know what's going on, especially if you say that you're a student. That's, you know, that's a no-no. Never say you're a tourist. Never say you're a tourist, never say you're a student. You know, you have to come here and be confident. You have to, because these landlords, they make it seem like they have so many candidates for the rooms, but in reality, all these candidates are, you know, they come to Amsterdam to get high and, you know, party and stuff, and they don't want these kind of tenants.
Sure.
So it's kind of like a game where you kind of do a deal back and forth until you find the perfect place. But you know, it's pretty stressful sometimes. I have to move now in a month and I still haven't found anything, but I don't doubt that.
What are the rates? I mean, when you said there are good prices that you can find, especially if you're savvy and street smart, what does a flat go for there? What's a good price?
The place I live in now is a studio, which is quite small. It's just one thing with the bathroom and the kitchen, and I pay over 1,000, maybe 1,100. That's without like you know, electricity costs. And so I had the opportunity to make the you know, the rent lowering procedure, but the problem is that I didn't, because I don't know why. I just and so now I'm kind of stuck with this rent, but it's okay. I'll just write it out, and next time I'll probably do it as soon as I move in. I'm just gonna get the contract and pass it over to these guys and lower the rent, because yeah, they can, you know, it's everything in the Netherlands is basically gray zones in the law that you have to know how to use in your favor. So this goes from, you know, renting to traffic to, you know, the drug industry and so on. It's about all these gray areas that you can, it's not legal or illegal, you know, as long as you know how to move around, you can get what you want. But
yeah,
you have to also be lucky.
So that is, would you say that's probably like an average price for a flat, like a studio, 1,100?
Yeah, they go around like 1,100, 1,200. If you want to get a room, usually they're lower, like, you know, 700, 800. But sometimes these rooms are not even, they're rooms just on paper. But you know, when you, it's like a storage room that, you know, they put a door, they put a wall inside, and now suddenly it's a room and they can sell it for hundreds. So this it's a very common practice here, and people basically leave like sardines in some cases, especially with the way the architecture is built, where you have these anti-crack buildings that they are old buildings and they call them historic, so that way they don't have to pay money to renovate them, and people live on these old ass, you know, buildings where they have to go up tiny stairs and get to their place. So yeah, the housing industry is pretty messy, but you know, I wouldn't say it's impossible. I wouldn't say it's as bad as New York, for example, where, you know,
it's very
it's
expensive
pretty
in
much,
New York.
yeah, pretty much impossible to actually find something. But it is way more expensive than, you know, the average Europe overall. And I would say the Netherlands is a pretty expensive country overall to live in, because it's not just rent, but you also have to pay all these taxes, random taxes. I have to pay 500 euros a month for waste tax, you know, like the trash.
Okay, so that's utilities. That's what I was going to ask you next. Like utilities, like electricity, you know, and trash. Wow, that's a lot of money. So 500 euros go into.
Yeah, but
so
that's
what are the utilities?
Household.
What are the total utilities costs, would you say, per month?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky here because there's no gas, everything is electric, so I just pay electricity. So I'll just pay maybe 100 extra for electricity and Wi-Fi, and then the 500 yearly that is split, you know. But yeah, I would say with utilities and everything, yeah, you would add up usually around 100 euros more to your rent, and then, you know, you have all the extra stuff like healthcare and you know, the dentistry, which is a completely different thing that you have to pay for. It doesn't go in the healthcare. It goes in healthcare, but not under the normal insurance. You know, you have to make a special one, and it's the system is made to work online. So everything like paying taxes, you could do it online. But it's pretty complicated, and you can tell that these systems have been built some time ago and they need, you know, a bit of refreshing. If you want to pay taxes, you have to go to like 3 different websites. They could easily just, you know, put them all together, but you know, go in here, you log in with DJID, which I don't know if you know about it. It's like your digital identity essentially that you use here. So you connect to that to tax authorities, to the police if you have anything, or to a hospital. You use your DJID everywhere. Yeah, and in the school.
Is that like a license, a little card?
No, it's not. It's just a virtual number. There's nothing physical to it. You have an app on your phone, and it's like 5 security processes. You put in a code, you scan a QR code, you put in your password. It's yeah. So if you want to pay taxes, it's a thing that you have to take your day off, you know, go through all these things, connect again and again and again.
So this digital ID, is everybody required in the Netherlands to have that?
Yes, you have one. So you get one before you come here. If you want to study, you have to make a DJID to sign up to courses.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but you can, you just do it online, you send your documents, and and then you
just kind of memorize your number.
No, you just, well, this is different. So DJID is the what you use to connect to these platforms, but then you have your BSN, your burger service number, which is like your identification number that you I don't have my wallet, but it's I have it on my health card. Yeah, it's like a number, and then that number is used again to pay taxes and healthcare and, you know, schooling, and you get that when you register in the Netherlands. Okay. So you get the DJID first, and then the BSN after that, and you use the BSN is like the number that represents you, so to speak, and DJID is what you use to connect to the services.
Yeah. Do you find that makes it easier to navigate the system, having that?
I wouldn't know how to compare it to anything, because in Romania, pretty much the system is that you you want to do something, you go and wait in a line for hours, and then you talk to some people in person, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely for me, because I'm a digital person, or so the generation,
Sure. Yeah.
it's definitely, it's better, but I see so many ways that this could be improved, but they just don't really care about it. They think it works, so they just leave it work. They don't want to necessarily improve on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So we're looking at about like what you're saying, about 1,100 for rent for a studio. You
Mhm.
could find rooms between 700-800, and then you're looking at an additional for utilities per month, with electric and water, Wi-Fi, maybe 100. Does that sound fair?
Could go over it. Yeah, could be
But
like 150 for utility. It really depends if you live alone or you split, because essentially all these taxes you split if you live with other people. But I
yeah.
live myself, so I pay everything for a one person household.
Okay. So
Uh,
if you live alone, you're going to pay about 150, would you say?
yeah, living alone is more expensive for sure.
Okay.
And harder to find, because yeah, like I said, people just take even a studio. They might just build a wall in the middle and then make two studios and sell them for the price that they would sell one studio for.
Okay.
Uh,
All
but
right.
if you go, this is Amsterdam. If you go probably more towards the south, towards the east, towards west, you could probably find, cheaper places to live in. But then it is such a huge jump from Amsterdam, which is essentially very futuristic, and then you go, say, two cities over to the west, and there's farms, and you can find a supermarket in the 5 kilometer radius. I personally, I wouldn't live there, even if I pay half the rent. Just kind of uh there's this there's this whole side of the Netherlands that are all about like farming and animals and plants and stuff, so it's not really for me.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah,
how do you, let me ask you this, Kronos, how do you get around Amsterdam? How do you move around? What's the transportations that you
you
utilize
bike.
over there? Your body. I like
Yeah,
that.
no, bike. Yeah,
Oh,
biking,
bike.
walking. Yeah. You can use public transportation. The thing here in the Netherlands is that public transportation is quite expensive. Even just like taking a train to a different city can cost you like 25 euros. Go,
Okay.
forth and back. Um, and they're also pretty complicatedly built. If I want to go, for example, uh, anywhere in the western side of the Netherlands, I have to go east to the airport first, because that's how the train routes are built, and then I can go all the way over. But yeah, you just bike, you walk everywhere. It's pretty much, I think, statistics say there's 2 bikes per person in the Netherlands. So you will see bikes everywhere here.
Wow.
Everybody's biking during winter, during heavy rainfall. Everyone is biking, and you will see some crazy bikes here. Like the bike that we know of, like 2 wheels and stuff. That's the basic one. But people here have some crazy modified bikes with like shields and 4 wheels, and the electric bikes that you sit on top of it in the wheel. It's really amazing to see. But yeah, you see a lot of regular bikes all the time, and
Yeah.
people just kind of, bikes here are pretty disposable. If people get their bike lost or stolen, they don't really care. They'll just get a new bike. Personally, I have 2 locks on my bike. I prefer, to have extra security and not have it stolen. It's a thing that happens a lot here. Bikes getting stolen, sometimes cars getting broken into. So there's this side of danger to Amsterdam, that people don't seem to really point out. But it's safe. I would say, you could walk at 1 a.m. on the street if it's a main street, and you will feel safe. Like, you know, um, but yeah, it's a thing that happens, and so
Yeah. Yeah. Let's okay. So let's dive into, you mentioned healthcare a little bit earlier.
mhm.
Do you have healthcare?
Yeah. So you have to. What I didn't know, that you have to have, if you come on a Schengen, with the Schengen zone, with your ID, and you live here, and you decide to live here, you need to do 2 things to be able to live here. One is to register, and one is to get healthcare. If you don't get healthcare in the first 3 months of you living here off of the touristic, time, you get fined, and you can go to prison. And I was lucky because I didn't know all of this, and I went on 1 year without any healthcare because I had my Romanian healthcare. I thought that, sure, it works worldwide, but that's not true. You have to have a Dutch insurance here. You have to have it. And so, yeah, there's different providers, and they give you different packages.
Does it cost?
Yeah, it costs, but they also refund you. So the way it works, my insurance, the way it works is that I paid the sum of money at the beginning of the year. It was maybe 2,000 or something like that, and then you have a own risk, which is basically anything that costs over that will be covered. So you pay, say the own risk is like 300 euros. In the whole year where you have your insurance, any cost over 300 euros will be covered. That's total. So it's not about.
You had to pay 2,000 to start? 2,000 euros?
Yeah, something like that yearly. And then also monthly, they give you a little bit of it back. So I would
think, let me ask you this. I would think that there's quite a few people that can't afford to pay $2,000 up front.
Yeah, I think you can make plans, and I pay yearly because I get a discount.
Gotcha. Okay, so you pay it up front. So most people probably pay monthly.
Yeah, it's probable, sure.
Okay.
But as I said, if you live in the Netherlands, it's rarely that you will find people who can't really afford stuff. You don't really even see homeless people here. I think I saw maybe like 2 homeless people in 4 years of living here. And they were eating, and they were they were just living on the street.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of people actually like pay these upfront, but yeah, for if you're new here or a student, or you can pay it in plans and stuff. They offer you this option, but yeah, obviously it's more expensive. And then every month I get back like 70 euros from the insurance. So then it kind of, over yearly, it kind of levels out.
Okay, so you get paid back even though you're not going in to receive services. They still pay you money back.
Well, I guess that's why they do it, because there's I think every month or so you have this own risk that is yearly, and then you have something every month, and then after, because if you don't use, so to speak, that money, I think they give. I'm not really 100% sure. That's the thing here, is they don't really tell you exactly how it works. You just kind of have to figure it out.
Gotcha. So you're getting paid every month. You're getting reimbursed.
But it's an insignificant amount. And then, like I said, if I have if I have if I have some pills to buy, for example, that money gets taken out of that money, so
I see. Okay.
But then if you have like medical procedures that are very expensive, like 800 euros, you lose all that 300, and then you have to pay over anything that's or you pay the 300 and they pay everything that's over. And then you have healthcare is like, you have these packages, so you can kind of pick. You have to know yourself, right? If you're more sicklish and stuff, you can pick more doctor visits yearly that get covered, or but usually you kind of go for the cheapest insurance. You just have it, because the medical system isn't really great anyways. You have to wait for weeks to do anything, even months. I have to take my wisdom teeth out, and the waiting list is 9 months.
Oh wow.
So but yeah, I would say medically they are definitely a bit underdeveloped, and even because here being a doctor pays off really well, and they just kind of take vacations. They just kind of do, you're fine, you could go home. They don't really care so much about taking new cases and getting new patients and stuff. So
all right, so Kronos, thanks for that info on healthcare. You said dentistry is a little bit different though.
Yeah, it is.
There's a cost to that.
Yeah, so there's 3 things. There's the normal insurance healthcare, there's dentistry,
Yep.
and there's alternative medicine, which is, for example, chiropractic or acupuncture and stuff. All of that stuff goes into alternative medicine, so nobody's gonna cover that. You have to pay for it. You have to make a special get a special packet on your insurance. And then dentistry is pretty much the same thing. You have to get a pack when you make your insurance. You basically make a package, and then you have the basic insurance, dentist insurance, alternative insurance, and you pick which level you want from it. I didn't have dentist insurance for the first 3 years or 2 years that I was here, and then I had problem with my teeth, and they wanted quite literally hundreds of euros just for these little things.
Yeah.
And so it took me a few months to find. I found a dentist because, again, we go into this gray zone where I went to this dentist and they wanted to, for one procedure, they gave me a list of costs, right? Then I went to this other dentist where I go now, and for the same procedure, instead of giving me a list of costs, they just put the thing that was the most expensive as the only thing that was there. So I only had to pay that. It's about people who, they have the choice to ask a lot of money from you, and they can always like write, oh, do this, you have to do that, and then put prices on it. And then you will find people who genuinely want to help you, and they just, the lady, the dentist lady, she saw that I don't have an insurance. She assumed that I can't really spend a lot of money, so she was okay. We will do this. You can pay this, which is the main charge normally, So then, yeah, but I have to pay a dentist insurance, which is like maybe like another 100 or 200 euros on top of the normal insurance. But you pay all together, so it goes to the same. You pay in the same payment, but yeah, you have to make it separate. I guess some people just don't have any teeth issue and they just don't pick it, or they just don't know, like myself. So you end up in the situations where, yeah, it's good to have the minimum dentist insurance, because if you have a medical emergency, for example, see, that's the thing, where if you have a medical emergency related to your teeth, that it's an actual emergency, it doesn't go under the dental industry anymore, and your insurance from your normal healthcare is going to cover it if it happens in a hospital. But if it happens in a dental clinic, you have to go with the dentist insurance. So it all boils down to these specific things that kind of change the whole circumstance.
Yeah. And obviously it's a little bit different in Romania from what you recall.
Yeah, in Romania, nobody really cares. You just go and they, I have this problem. Okay, I fixed it. Here's the money.
Gotcha.
Romania is pretty underdeveloped and pretty there's not a lot of systems in place back there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I personally, if you put it in comparison, I always say that the Netherlands isn't, it's not the best and it's not as amazing as people say, but compared to Romania, it's a whole different world. Like
Yeah.
I would never, go back to Romania. It was definitely a change for me too. But again, coming here, you see a lot of things that you also see in Romania, like trash everywhere and like violence and people, kind of being racist. Sometimes it happens, but
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about I know, years ago I was in Amsterdam in the 90s. And it was and it was a really cool and exciting place to be. But the big draw, is I was spending a summer in Europe. And so the first stop was actually Luxembourg and then Amsterdam. And we were there for maybe, I don't know, 3-4 days. And the draw back then was really, because marijuana has always been legal. Cannabis has been legal in Amsterdam. So that was always like a draw. And even though I've never been big into marijuana, we did go to some of the shops and, smoke a little bit. But the big draw has always been the red light district and the marijuana, right, or the cannabis in the kind of these facilities where you can walk in and order like a brownie or a space cake, they called them back. I don't even know what they call them today.
Yeah, they go by
Space,
different things.
space cake. I mean, what's your impression of all that today? Are there still a tremendous amount of tourism that just kind of infiltrates Amsterdam because of the shops, the cannabis shops? And hold on one second.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, your video got stuck there, but
Oh wow. Okay.
oh, here we go.
We're
To
back.
normal. Yeah. So
Back.
the whole recreation industry here is huge. Is definitely huge, and it's not just cannabis. Big thing here is mushrooms. People
Oh
take
wow.
mushrooms, truffles. Yeah, you can. So you buy weed in coffee shops,
Yeah.
and then you buy the other stuff in smart shops.
Okay.
They're like, yeah, they're different type of stores, but you know, they both sell substances. And yeah, in coffee shops sometimes you can get brownies. Not all of them have edibles so much anymore, but now they have this wave extracts where it's just like the THC extract, and it's pretty expensive. You can pay like 100 euros for a gram, and they kind of put it in a pipe. But so cannabis isn't legal in the Netherlands.
That's true. That is true. A lot
It's
of it's
decriminalized.
yes.
And the way it works is that coffee shops are not legally allowed to buy weed, but they're legally allowed to sell it. So the weed has to magically teleport in the coffee shops, you know. And well, the way they do it is they have these undercover drivers, you know, they just come through the back door, drop off the weed, and then kind of go on their way.
Yeah.
But so you can get in trouble for weed here. You have to kind of, you know, be obnoxious
Sure.
to get in trouble. When I lived in Zandvoort, for example, people there don't smoke that much as in Amsterdam, and I would have people complain all the time. But even here in Amsterdam, I would have people complain about, oh, it smells like weed, but they can't really do anything. It's, you know, it's the same as complaining about someone smoking a cigarette, which actually surprisingly is very huge here. People love cigarettes in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
In Amsterdam, they love tobacco. They smoke cigarettes all day long. But yeah, so the thing with the cannabis is that, first of all, most of it, I would say 90% of the weed in coffee shops is not what they say it is. So it's usually just a Dutch variant of the American weed, which is cheaper to make, you know, so they can get more profit. And then the people that work in coffee shops, the bud tenders, as they call them, they don't really get paid that well. So you always kind of have to leave a tip.
Yeah.
So it's, and yeah, it's a very touristy focused thing. But personally, I smoke cannabis every day. So after years, I kind of figured out that every coffee shop has these 2 or 3 strains that are good, and everything else, just ignore it. So it doesn't, you know, looking at the menus won't really do anything. You have to see the weed. They have to let you smell it. Someone let you smell it. Some coffee shops only take cash, which is pretty sketchy. But when, you know, they can't buy weed anyways with the card legally, so they have to use cash. So you understand. But yeah, it's a very it's still, there's still a lot of people who are legally kind of pushing boundaries here and there. At some point this year, the lady that takes care of the Ministry of Tourism or stuff, she wanted to ban all tourists from coffee shops. And you know, everybody was like, people here in the Netherlands, if there's something that they don't like, they will protest it. They will go in the street the same day, and they will have they have cars that walk on the street with the protesters, they blast music, and they have like stages on these cars. It's really something else. And yeah, you just basically find people anywhere from like 12-year-old to like 60 years old dancing to techno music and protesting anything. They protest anything they don't like. So if there was something like that to happen, it wouldn't be there for long. When COVID hit, and they had to close the coffee shops for 1 day, which is that never happens. Like coffee shops are open from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. So the most out of everything.
Yeah.
And when they closed for 1 day, then everyone was crazy. There were people protesting in front of coffee shops and in lines and stuff. And then when they opened the next day, it was huge lines. You could see them on the street. You could tell they were going to the coffee shop, you know.
That's great.
Yeah, it was I remember back then I used to live in still in Amsterdam, but I was more in the west, and the coffee shop was very far away. And I remember I was basically just messaging them on Instagram and asking like, "Are you open?" They said, "Yeah, we don't know if we're gonna open," because it was when COVID just hit, it was a lot of uncertainty. Nobody really knew how it was gonna develop. And then, but then when you look into it in retrospective, they closed for maybe 1 day, not even one full day, you know. And but it caused such a shock, and you would see people walking on the street and like ask, "Do you have any weed or something?" Like,
yeah. Wow.
It was pretty crazy. And yeah, so
people were having a meltdown, man, going, "Oh
yeah,
man, we gotta line up and make sure that we buy as much as we can in case this happens again."
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can't really stock up on weed because that's illegal. You have to buy in small, you know, you have to always take trips to the coffee shop to buy. That's how they kind of keep you locked in.
Yeah.
But you can legally grow cannabis here. So I'm looking into that in a few years. Maybe I live somewhere where I have the, you know, capacity for that. But you can grow up to like 3 plants, I believe. Growing cannabis can be quite expensive, but in the long run, you can get a pretty good habit if you know how to grow it. I'm not a farmer, so
sure, yeah. Well, it's a
but
process to learn, man. It's
yeah,
definitely a
people do
process
that
to
all the
learn.
time.
Yeah. Let me ask you that. What do you guys do for fun? What do you do for entertainment in Amsterdam and in the Netherlands? What do people do for fun there? And what does it cost? I mean, is there a cost involved for the fun that people pretty much partake in?
Everything costs here.
Yeah. Okay.
You can if you leave the house, you have to leave the house with money. You can't just even, you know. But yeah, people. It depends. I would say, especially maybe it's just this area, but Amsterdam in general is very pet friendly. So there's like 1 in or like 2 in 3 people have a dog or a cat, and they're walking it outside or jogging or biking. So a lot of sports. You will definitely see people just working out randomly, running. I live next to the canal, so I see canal is the water.
Yep.
And so I see people on boats all the time. They make barbecues on boats, and there's also the tour boats, the smoke boats, which is like 40 people on this big boat, and they all like smoke hookahs and weed and stuff, and they come through the canal here, and they're like, all they do is they scream. They don't really scream anything. They just scream, you know, they let out the everything. But yeah, if people will say this a lot. If you want to have fun in Amsterdam, just go on the street and kind of whatever you see, go there, you know, do it. There's no really specific locations or that you could go to or that people hang out in. If you go to any park, or you will find people with a big stereo speaker listening to techno, you know, that's just the lifestyle here. Everybody's pretty outdoorish.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this. Do you well, thanks for that. Do you know anything about the real estate costs? Like if you were to buy a flat or
Yeah,
buy,
I was looking into that too. So if I were to this studio here that I live in, would probably go for maybe 150 or 200.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know how to put that in perspective, but I think it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, the way it works is that there's a lot of old people that bought property like tens of years ago when it was very cheap. So now they kind of sell it for very expensive. And there's always in Amsterdam, you will always find something that is building an apartment complex or a housing residence or something. They're always building housing all the time. So yeah, there's like sites and stuff that you can go on and check prices and buy. But I don't think people are so much into buying here. I think the majority just rents. Opposed to Romania, which in Romania everybody owns their house. Like nobody really rents in Romania.
Yeah. And well, yeah, Romania is quite affordable compared to
Yes.
the Netherlands for sure.
Basically, it's like you take the price and you divide it by 5.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to share about your experience, or what, about Amsterdam that may be of interest to the viewers? Anything you can
well,
think of?
I would say the even if it may seem it's pretty scary. Like, if it depends on your personality. If you're a very social person, you might find it very welcoming. For me, it was very hard. I came here and especially in Zandvoort, where it's like I was the only person there that looked that way. It's like even going to the coffee shops where it's like people who are super open-minded, they were like, oh, where you from, blah blah. It's like but yeah, it could be intimidating, but when you kind of get with the pace and you kind of start feeling, it might take some time, but you kind of get the hang of things.
Yeah.
And
When you say intimidating, what do you mean by that?
it's just a lot of information, like coming from Romania, where it's like everything is the same thing, and coming here and see all this like culture explosion. Essentially, it's like people
Okay.
from everywhere. You will find people from everywhere here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just me as a person too. When I first moved here, I used to have like a lot of mental health issues and stuff. So now that I'm over that period, and I'm just enjoying life as a whole, so it kind of, my surroundings also come with that. But yeah, because it's hard. It's hard to live here. It's hard to move here, to find the rent, to get all these insurances and stuff, and the government doesn't really like foreigners. So but if you become street smart and you learn how it works, you can get used to it, and then kind of it's a different perspective. Now when I go and see a rent, I feel like I'm the one in control now, even if maybe they want to speak Dutch and we don't understand each other. Here in Amsterdam, it's kind of embarrassing not to speak English, so you don't really need to learn Dutch. But if you go
Yeah.
to different cities, people will tell you like, oh, you need to speak Dutch before you come here.
Yeah. That was one of the big awarenesses that I had. I was young when I traveled to Amsterdam, but everybody there spoke such brilliant English.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like the English was
you
they
can
spoke.
definitely hear the Dutch accent.
You can hear the Dutch accent, but they spoke better English than a lot of the people that I knew back in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and I was like, everywhere, everybody just spoke such good English, and it was like really an eye opener for me, at that time.
Yeah, even I think Europe overall, because even in Romania they teach English as a second language in school,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's pretty much all of Europe. But yeah, they teach English pretty much from the. I would say the issue is with Europe is that they always teach British English, which I think is that's not how it works. If it's a very specific English that only British people can really fully understand. So I feel like learning just not American English, but just like kind of the overall English is without like accents and extra times and stuff. But yeah, here they don't really have a huge British English influence. They just kind of speak English with a Dutch accent.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can tell if you hear people online or like you see a YouTube video and they speak with you can tell, you hear the Dutch English accent right away.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right away.
All right. You got anything else for us?
Well, I don't know. I would say if you want to visit Amsterdam, it's great. If you want to live here, it's hard, but it can be worth it. And because of all this cultural expansion here, there are people that you can meet someone and be like, wow, I never knew about all of this stuff that existed in a different part of the world.
Yeah.
And now we met here and we exchanged information. And even about myself, when I tell people I'm from Romania, they seem like they actually care and they ask how the things are there and stuff. So it's pretty heartwarming. And people genuinely, the majority of people kind of go off the vibes you give. So if you're friendly with someone, they're gonna be friendly back. If you ignore them, they kind of ignore you back.
Yeah. 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 Well, Kronos, man, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to
Thank
be a
you.
part of this podcast and sharing your journey from Romania and all of the wisdom and information you provided about living in the Netherlands and Amsterdam. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. It
And
was really
definitely send me those. Yeah, send me those
yeah, I will send
links
you
of
the
your
link
music
for
and everything, so people can actually hear your music and purchase your album. We'll post all that on the end of this podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy, and have a great day, man.
Yeah, you too.
They never want to shit to change, cause they can't face it. No, yeah. Every day fight with the pressure. But did you think that you could fit my own clothes inside of this polo? I've been all alone for way too many years, and there's no more tears. Been broken into pieces, and I pick myself up. I did have to push myself up.